Now you're going to get your fancy fur and put it onto your tapestry needle, and we're going to start decorating the dog. The first thing that you're going to do is just work right along the eye level along the snout. And you just pick a side. I'm going to start on this side, and you just take a small amount of the snout with your tapestry needle. You're going to pull the yarn through. And you can leave about this much yarn hanging down because we're going to trim it later. Then you're just going to take and loop it. Take another bite with your tapestry needle and then loop the yarn the same length. And you just keep looping the yarn all the way down towards the nose. And you're always making the loop the same size. And when you run out, you just grab some more yarn and keep looping all the way down and then come back. After you finish looping it down to the nose, then you're going to take each loop and cut the end of the loop. Take all the strands and tie a knot. Be careful not to pull the knot too tight so you don't pull the loops. And then just tie a knot with each of your loose strands. All the way down. And that just helps to secure the hair onto the dog. So you're going to do that all the way down, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're also going to start from the back, and this is where I started my loop for the hair that's going to hang down. And you just pull the yarn through. And this yarn is going to be about the length of the feet when it's standing, and you can always trim it later, so I just leave it about this length hanging down. And then you're just going to loop just like you did on the snout. You're just going to make a loop the same length. All the way around to, you're going to make it across the front. And then you're going to go around the opposite side and end up exactly equal to the opposite side on this side. And tie your knots the same way that you did on the snout. Now, you should have hair going starting from the back. And I went about 2 stitches from each side of the tail. And you can see how I went all the way around. And then this is what it looks like on the front. And I went all the way around the side. And I lined it up so that they're equal on the back. And then on the snout, you should have hair on both sides of the nose. And now we're going to work both sides, making the smaller portion of the hair. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Now you're going to work hair along this side towards the nose, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side towards the nose. But I'm going to show you this side first. You're just going to take, and the same way you did down here, you're just going to bring the yarn through and loop it and tie knots. This one, you can have a little bit shorter. Remember, we're going to trim it later. So you can have it going about halfway and then loop it. And then you're going to do the same thing, just loop it. And you can hold the hair with your hands to hold it so it doesn't get in the way. And then just loop the yarn the same size as your initial strand. And then do that all the way down to the nose, and then come back, and I'll show you how I do the other side. This is how the one side looks. You can see how I looped those strands all the way down to the nose. Now I'm going to work on the other side, and you just work it the same way. Just take your tapestry needle, and you can hold the yarn so it doesn't get in the way, and then just loop. The same way you did on the other side. I'm going to make it about halfway, the length about halfway. And then you're just going to loop and cover all the way down to the nose, covering this empty portion there, and then come back. This is what it looks like when you're done. It's completely covered, the top of the snout. We're not going to groom the yarn dog yet. The next step that we're going to work is under the head. So you're just going to take and flip your crochet dog, because we're going to work right under the chin. Now when you're working the hair under the chin, you're going to start right on the row next to the tongue. So you're going to work right into this row right here, and take your tapestry needle and just take a small stitch, and you're going to loop your yarn just like you did before. Except that these hairs don't have to be very long. So I just leave mine about this length. And I'm going to work along this way. That way I can flip the hair over to the opposite side. And then I'm just going to follow this row that's right beneath the tongue. So I'm just going to follow the row right beneath the tongue, and then go up to the opposite side equal to the side of the tongue. This is what the hair should look like so far. We have some hair under the tongue now, or under the chin, but I'm not going to trim it yet until we get the hair around the eye on both sides. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now you're going to take your tapestry needle and go alongside the eye. And I'm just leaving this mount. And you're going to leave your loops the same length, and you're just going to work along the side of the eye. And you could see how I went up to the ear and just made my loops. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Then you're also going to go at an angle and put some hair right on the side of the head. And this is what it looks like on the side when I'm done putting the loops in. And then that top portion will come right down on top of it. And you're going to do the exact same thing next to the other eye on the other side. Now you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to work across the top of the head so that your Westie has some bangs. So you're going to loop your yarn the same way and tie your knots. And you could leave it a little bit shorter. We're going to trim it. So this is about how long I'm going to loop my ends. And then I'm just going to work straight across, just looping the yarn all the way across. And you can see how it looks right now because I haven't trimmed it yet, but that's how the hair should look across the top. Then you're just going to put some hair across the back of the head. This is where I started on the back of the head, and I'm going to work the loops all across the top of the back of the head and just tie the knots just like you did before. And this is what the hair looks like when I'm done putting it onto the back of the head. When you come back, we'll be Yarn Dog Groomer. The first thing I do is just take the bangs and just trim those a little bit so you can see the eyes. Then take all of the side hair and take your pair of scissors, and you're going to take and at an angle like this, you're just going to cut. And do that on both sides. Then you're going to take all of the side hair on the one side of the nostril, and you're just going to cut close at an angle. And do that on both sides. Make sure that both sides are equal when you cut them. Then you're going to take the bottom hair under the chin. Make sure you don't grab the hair that's on the body. You only want the chin hair. And then you're going to cut the chin hair equal to the length that you did the sides. Then the last thing you do is just trim the back of the head, and then you're just going to trim the hair all along the bottom edge, and then you're all done with your cute little Westie. I just wanted to show how much yarn was left over of the fancy fur yarn so that you know that you could make definitely more than one Westie with this type of yarn. For the hat and the scarf, you're going to need your N or 9mm crochet hook, as well as your tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. I used I Love This Yarn metallic color, ivory. Here's a little more information on the yarn. And I used Red Heart Super Saver Cherry Red. And then I just used a white medium 4 100% acrylic yarn. This one is just by Craft Smart Value yarn. For the hat, you're going to start with your metallic ivory yarn, and you're going to make a slip knot. So you're just going to fold it over on itself, forming a loop, and then take your end crochet hook, hold the base with your middle finger and your thumb. You're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for your slip knot. Then you're going to make a chain. I'm just going to show you how to make 4 of them, but you're going to make a total of 40. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and finish making a total of 40 and then come back. After you make your chain of 40, you're going to hold that last stitch with your middle finger and your thumb, and then you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next row, and then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way back to the beginning, and then come back. So I'm going to show you one more. Go ahead, finish making 1 double crochet into every stitch back across, and then come back. This is how your work should look after completing 1 double crochet all the way across. Then you're just going to fold it in half, make sure it's not twisted, and you're going to make a slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. And then just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle, put it onto the loose yarn end, and just join the bottom. And then you can go ahead and just bury your loose yarn end on the inside. Just kind of weave it through. Go ahead and bury both your loose yarn ends and then come back with your red yarn, and I'll show you how to make the top portion of the hat. Then you're going to take your red yarn. We're going to join the red yarn. This is going to be the back seam, so you can line it up so it's in the back. And then you want to find the 9 stitches that are in the center. Once you have it exactly folded in half, you're going to count 5 stitches in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to join your red yarn, make a chain of 1, tie a knot, then you're going to make a chain of 3, then you're going to make 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches. You're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, go behind your loose yarn end, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. Go ahead and just make 1 double crochet into the next 8 stitches and then come back. This is how my work looks so far. And then I'm going to make a chain of 3 for the next row. And you're going to make 1 double crochet back across. You're not going to go into the base of that first chain 3 that you worked. You're going to go into the next stitch over and just make a double crochet all the way back, and then chain 3 and work a double crochet until you have a total of 3 rows, and then come back. Then after you've completed 3 rows of 1 double crochet into every stitch, you're just going to turn your work and slip stitch into the next stitch over, then slip stitch into the second stitch over, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then make 1 double crochet into the next 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, And you're going to leave the last 2 stitches unworked. Then you're going to turn your work, slip stitch into the next stitch over, slip stitch into the second stitch over, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then make 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then finish off. Bring enough yarn through to sew the 2 sides together, because now you're going to do the exact same thing that you did on this side onto the back side. You can see how I made the exact same pattern on the opposite side, and when you're done you just fold it over on itself, and then you leave the long ends that you left for sewing to sew the 2 edges together. So you just take the point of the hat and then you just take and sew along the edges of the hat, and you're going to sew along here and sew along the other side and then come back. This is how your work should look. You have holes on both sides for the dog ears, and then this will just go right onto the dog's head. But first we're going to put the ball that goes at the top of the hat. Just take your white yarn and we're going to make a magic circle. Drape the yarn across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, and then drape the yarn around your 2 middle fingers and hold it with your pinky and your thumb. Then you're going to bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through that loop for your slip knot. And then you're going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle. Then you're going to take your 4 finger and thumb and hold it at the base of the 6 single crochet, and then you have your 2 loops on the opposite side. You're going to pull on one. If it doesn't close, of course you'll let go and pull on the other one, but this one's closing it. Then you're going to take your loose yarn in and pull on that. Now you're just going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch. Actually, you're going to make 2. You're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12. Then take your yarn marker and place it right where you left off and make 1 single crochet into every stitch around for 2 rounds, and then come back. After you complete your 2 rounds of 1 single crochet into every stitch, you can go ahead and take out your yarn marker. Then you're just going to do decrease stitches until it's closed. Just go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through all 3 for a decrease stitch. And then you're just going to make decrease stitches all the way around. And you can see how it's starting to form a ball. You can tuck the loose yarn end on the inside, and then you can skip a stitch, go into the second stitch, yarn over, and bring the yarn through both loops for a slip stitch, and just slip stitch it closed. Then yarn over and bring enough yarn through to sew it onto the hat. take your tapestry needle and place it onto the long end you left for sewing and just sew it right to the tip of the hat. You go right through the ball and then into the tip of the hat, and just go through a couple of times, making sure that it's nice and secure. And then once it's secure, you can tie a knot and then bury the loose yarn end. And your hat is done. Now I'm going to show you how to make the scarf. For the scarf, I'm going to start with my red yarn, and you're going to make a chain of 10. Just fold the loop over on itself. Yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. And now you're going to make a chain of 10. Hold that last stitch with your middle finger and thumb, and then you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next row. Then just yarn over, go into the 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. Then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch all the way back across. This is how your work should look after you made a double crochet into every stitch back across. Then you're going to take your second color and you're going to join that color now. Just take and loop that yarn, bring it through your loop, chain 1, then you're going to tie a knot. And you're not going to cut your yarn because you're going to carry both yarn strands, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, go ahead and tie your knot. Then, after you've tied your knot, you're going to make a chain of 3 with your new color. 1, 2, 3. Then turn your work. Then you're going to bury your loose yarn end, and you're going to carry the red yarn as you work. You're not going to work into that base of that first chain 3 that you made. You're going to go into the next stitch over. So you're just going to yarn over, go into the next stitch over, go behind your red yarn and the loose yarn end, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. Then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across with your new color, carrying your red yarn with you, and then come back. This is how your work should look. Make sure that you've made your last double crochet into the last stitch. Then you're going to take and grab the red yarn and bring that through the loop. You're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to turn your work. And this time you're going to carry the metallic ivory yarn with you as you work. So you're going to go yarn over, go into the next stitch over, go behind your ivory yarn, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2 with your new color. You can see how you're alternating and carrying your alternate color with you as you work. And then you're just going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. And you're just going to keep doing this until you have the length of your scarf. And if you want to have the same length as me, come back and I'll show you how large mine is. Then, after you finish 23 rows, finishing up with the same color that you started with, you're just going to take both yarn colors and yarn over and pull both yarn colors through and bring enough through to bury into your work. Just take your tapestry needle and bury the loose yarn ends.